What's going on, everybody? Today on the Austin Smith Real Estate Podcast, it's going to be a short show, and it's actually going to be rant style, where I'm literally going to it'll be a rant both to you and to myself on how to purchase your property in the next 90 days. This week's episode, like I said, is going to be short. Asia and I, my wife, are I don't want to say getting married, but we're having our reception this coming weekend, and there are a lot of moving parts, and we are running around trying to tie up loose ends, get things ready, prepare for a family that's traveling to come see us, and it's going to be awesome. Definitely can't wait for it. And so as a result, this week's podcast episode, like I said, is going to be a little bit shorter, and I'm going to dive right into this. Ready? Here we go. It's going to change your life and mine. Like I said, it's a rant to myself as well. Buying your property in the next 90 days. It is now about to be April, spring renewal. Whether that's the greenery outside or whether that's your mind inside, springtime is that time for renewal. It is the beginning of the second quarter. You're now into the powerhouse of how your year can eventually turn out. And this is that time where we're going to put everything into perspective for you to win. So how to buy your property in the next 90 days. And we're going to do it with the acronym D.E.A.L. 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 How to find your next deal in 90 days. You ready? Because don't take it personal. Just take it with the fact that I'm trying to get you to move, trying to get myself to move. And here's what can happen. Decide. And don't overlook this step. And the reason why I said decide is because most people, including myself in the very beginning, we knew that we wanted to. We knew that we had desires to. We know that we had the emotional connection to. But for whatever reason, the deal hasn't been done. Or for whatever reason, you're behind on your goals. Or for whatever reason, you're not where you want to be. When you decide over the next 90 days, decide, and when you take that word and literally slice it down the middle, and you have D on one side and side on the other side, the word itself, decide, like when you're splitting it up and you're cutting off all other options, like the root word D, whether that's to, slice off, sever, cut ties, separate, whatever the case, that root word D, and then the word after that, so the piece after that, side. I don't know what CIDE means, but what I do know is that when you side with something, you're taking a position, you're taking a stance. So when you decide, you are now cutting off any other options possible. Like, remember when you decided that you weren't going to work at that spot anymore? Or you decided that that relationship is not worth your time anymore? Or even when you were talking about Friday night plans and you decided, what happened? You had options, you analyzed all your options, you cut off all your other options, and then you acted on one option. Decide that you're going to do this. If you're not, then fine, your results are going to show up the same way. Decide mentality-wise that you're going to do your next deal in the next 90 days. Now, obviously, that decision comes with a strategy. Is it flipping? Is it wholesaling? Is it rental properties? Notes? Whatever the case, doesn't matter what it is, but decide on the strategy. Don't just say that, hey, I want to be a real estate investor. Don't just say, like, I'm just looking for a good deal. Hate that one. I'm just looking for a good deal. You won't know what a good deal to a flipper looks totally different from a good deal from a rental to a wholesaler. But they can all be good deals. But if you don't know your strategy, you're going to miss your good deal opportunity. So step number one, decide that in the next 90 days, you are going to have your first or next investment property under contract. Decide. All right. Second part of the D.E.A.L acronym, E, educate yourself. And what I mean by educate yourself is understanding what's needed to pull your goal off in the next 90 days. So here's the interesting fact. Most of us, by the time that you're ready to act on something, you've already gotten the education. You know what it entails. You've listened to the podcast, you've read the articles, you read the books, you watched the videos, you've done all the education that is needed. I am talking about that, but that's not the whole thing. What I'm talking about is you making the decision, okay, I want to flip a property. I want to get a property under contract in the next 90 days that I'm going to flip. The flip doesn't have to be done in the 90 days. The transaction doesn't have to close in the 90 days. But getting the property under contract that you're going to eventually flip in the next 90 days, if that is what you want to do, what's needed in order for you to do that? Maybe you might need your contracting team ready for an estimate so you can analyze your numbers. Maybe you need spreadsheets in order to run your calculations. Maybe you need to make connections in order to make that happen. Maybe you need to identify how much money you need. Maybe you'll need to find out, who that mentor will be or that person that will guide you through who that will be. That's that's all the education practice. All right. Not just the, reading the books, the podcast, the articles. It's actually putting things in step that you will need in order to get that done in the next 90 days. So, there's the quote by Abraham Lincoln. If you give me X amount of time, say if you give me 4 hours to chop down the tree, I'm going to spend the first 3 hours sharpening the axe. Right? Why? Because it's preparation. And being prepared will help things flow into reality a lot more easier. So once you decide what you're actually going to do, that you're deciding that you're going to commit to this over the next 90 days, you then need to educate, okay, if that is the case, if I'm going to wholesale, if I'm going to get a property under contract to wholesale within the next 90 days, what do I need now in order to do that? That's part of your education process. All right. So it might come from a book. Like there's a great book, the Real Estate Wholesaling Bible by Fan Merrill. It'll literally take you step by step on what you need to do. So if that's the case, your education part is done. Done. Don't stay too long on that, but assess what you need in order for you to move forward. Step number 3 on the D.E.A.L acronym, act. Act on the lead generation strategy, right? Because you can have the contractors ready to go. You can have the bank financing in place. You can have the real estate agent to line up to sell the property, but none of that will even matter if you don't have a house to work with, or if you're not putting into practice the actions that will start bringing properties to you and for you to analyze. You can have all the spreadsheets, you can have everything that you need, but if you don't have a deal to analyze, then you're out of luck. So act on the lead generation strategy. And what I mean by this is, if I decide that I want to get a property under contract to wholesale in the next 90 days. I've educated myself on what I need. I can I can send out postcards. I can network with other investors. I can go door knocking. I can do cold calling. I can reach out to people on Facebook. I can, whatever the strategy is, it doesn't matter what the strategy is, just as long as you do it consistently. Pick a strategy that works for you. I don't care if it's Facebook ads. I don't care if it's driving for dollars, where you're driving your neighborhood, locating via distressed properties that, either have grass overgrown or mail stuffed in their mailbox, the poor maintenance on the outside. It doesn't look like anybody's home. Riding around your neighborhood to find out who those property owners are, going into your tax records, and locating the owner, whether they actually live there or whether they actually live out of state. And then you can find out who that owner is, whether you send a mailer out to that owner's current property address, whether you go on Facebook to try to find them. It doesn't matter. Driving for dollars is just a strategy, just like direct mail is a strategy, just like contacting probate attorneys to see who might need their home sold is like there's so many strategies. Matter of fact, if you go onto austinsmithrealestate.com/blog, there's an article that I wrote that I believe is 30 ways to find amazing investment deals in today's market. So you can Google different ways to find distressed properties online. Like, I don't care how you do it. There's 1,000,001 strategies. If you talk to a bunch of people, everybody's going to tell you what worked from them. The point is to pick a strategy and act on it. If you can even, to put the odds more in your favor, out of all the strategies that are available, pick 2, pick 3, and act on them. Like, don't hesitate, act on them with consistency. Because then something is going to happen. So every time that as far as me and my wife partner on deals, or I'll wholesale deals on the side, or whatever the case, and every time that I've told myself, now I do it in a lot shorter increments because obviously I've grown the business to the point. So I like to say, in this month, I like to put X amount of deals on the contract, or in the next 2 months, I want to be able to do this. And every single time that I've done that and actually focused my attention on achieving that, I found that property. Now, you might find a property, get an offer accepted, and it might not work out, but that's okay. Because you've broken the ice of getting that next property accepted. At that point, it's just about doing what you did to get up to that point where you found that property and continuing to do that, because if that property doesn't stick, another property will. If it's not the first one that you put an offer on, if it's not the second, it might be the third. But either way, you're getting to that point where you're going after properties that meet your criteria, that you want to get under contract. The offer is getting accepted. And then obviously everything else, I don't want to say is not out of your control, but you did what you needed to do. Because that's going to do this very, very important fundamental piece. And it's also the last part of the acronym D.E.A.L, which is L, which is learn from your results. Feedback. What's going on, right? So say you're like, okay, in the next 90 days, I want to get a property under contract for me to wholesale. I've educated what I need, the money that's involved. If I, want to spend money on marketing, whether I want to go driving for dollars, whatever the case, I've learned the lead generation strategies. I've talked to a mentor to see what they do. And now I'm ready to act consistently on a week in and week out basis. Hey, if I'm going to make 50 calls, I'm going to make 50 calls every week, or I'm going to, add 100 homes to my driving for dollars database. I'm going to look them up in the county tax records. I'm going to find the owner. Either I'm going to mail to them, or I'm going to try to find them on Facebook and reach out to them just to ask, hey, are you interested in selling? That's all. right? I'm going to do that 50 times, week in and week out until I find the deal. Okay, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, because eventually you're going to have data. And with that data, that's going to let you know whether you are on the right path or not. So at the end of the day, and physically write down your results, record your results. Because then at the beginning of the week, when you're going over your notes and you're looking at it like, okay, well, based off of what I'm doing right now, based off of my strategy of sending out 50 direct mail pieces a week, or, talking to 50 people, I'm not getting much attraction as much as I would like. So what can I do? Now, granted, if you do it in 1 week, that's not enough. Give it about a month at least, because then the more data, the better. You might not have nothing happen those first 2 weeks and then everything happened in the last 2 weeks. Or you might not have anything happen for the first 4 weeks, and then the next 2 months, everything's coming back to you like cake. Easy. But you won't know until you have the data that proves that. Which is why I said it doesn't matter what strategy you use. You have to stick with it in order to get the data that you can use to analyze whether this strategy is working or not. I'll tell you one thing. The biggest mistake that I did was stopping my direct mail campaign. Here's why. Direct mail campaign, it takes time. It is a campaign over time, right? So I started my direct mail campaign. I did it. I was doing it. I wasn't getting any results. I stopped. Somebody calls me from one of my postcards, and he literally tells me I held on to your postcard for many months until I was ready to actually sell my home. And at that point, I decided to give you a call. So now I'm reaping the benefits of the postcard, and as a result, we got that property under contract. I'm wholesaling it. We're actually closing on Friday, which is awesome. But what I'm more upset about myself is, man, what if I kept my direct mail marketing strategy going? I probably would be closing 3 deals by now, 4 deals, whatever the case. And that's the difference between a $10,000 check and a $40,000, $40,000 in closings over the course of, 3 checks, 4 checks, 5 checks, whatever the case. So I'm kicking myself in the butt about that. But as a rant, like I mentioned, a rant to you and a rant to myself, now this is the reaffirmation that I need to get that going again. Now, I'm still doing other things to generate leads and generate deals, but I've abandoned something that has worked for me. And now I have to start all over again, because I have to, again, build up that momentum all over again. But I understand that. And here's where, and that's what the, learning from your results piece comes into place. So say in your case, over the next 90 days, you're banging things out, you're doing things, and then over the month and a half, you start to see a little response from whatever you're doing. At that point, you have 2 options. Are you satisfied with the results? Actually, 3. 1, are you satisfied with the results? You are? Cool. Keep doing it. Right? If a deal came through, or if a seller, you came in contact with a seller that already raised their hand, said, I want to sell, and you already got it under contract, you're doing your thing. Awesome. Keep doing it. Option number 2 is to amplify it, right? So if you were doing your particular strategy, you got in contact with, say, 4 or 5 sellers, and all of them said no. You have an option. It's okay, do I need to speak with more sellers? Right? If I only spoke with 5 sellers and all of them said no, what happens if I were to speak with 10 sellers and 2 of them say right, or 2 of them say yes? Right? So now you're playing your numbers, because out of, your magic number might be 10. You might need to speak with 10 sellers or 10 wholesalers or 10 agents, and you might happen to notice that out of every 10 agents, one person provides you with an opportunity that you might be able to act on. So then you have that option. Do I amplify it? Now I need to talk to 20 agents, 30 agents, and you see where that takes you. Or the final option is to cut ties with that particular strategy and start on a new one. But like you can't get discouraged about finding out what doesn't work, because that brings you one step closer to what actually works. And again, this only works when, number one, you decide that you're going to do this. I'm going to tell you now, I don't want to say I have so many people as if I have like millions of followers or anything like that. But people will ask me from time to time, like, what's something that I can do to bring myself closer? Or, what's something that, what advice can you give for somebody who's starting out? So I'll give them advice, and it's real simple, right? Because I can tell if somebody's going to do something or not based off of how they communicate with me, right? Like it's one thing when a person's like, hey, I want to learn how to do this and do that. And then you look on their Instagram and they've started another business venture, or maybe they've started a blog, or they started whatever the case, but you can clearly see that they're working on something else. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the fact that obviously time is now being divvied up between all your previous endeavors. And if that's the case, then the less amount of time that you're going to have to be able to put into going after your next property in the next 90 days. So it doesn't, like, me personally, I don't care. It's just the fact that does your actions line up with what you say you're going to do? And I can also tell the people that are actually going to do something, because if they're not blasting it all over their social media, I mean, I'm not saying that people that blast things on social media, that if they're not doing that, then they're not working. You can definitely work in silence. Real G's move in silence like lasagna. No problem at all. But you can always tell the people that are going to make a move because they're in contact with you. They're asking questions. They're learning something and then bringing it back to you to see what you think about it, right? And it's not, it's not that I think that everybody who's looking to do something like has to come talk to me, or like they have to get my approval, but it shows that their brain is working. And what I mean by working is like the gears are turning. They're analyzing. They're wondering. They're sharpening the axe. They're chiseling away at the masterpiece. Like they want to get one step closer, right? And I challenge all of you, I guarantee you, if you take the acronym of D.E.A.L and put that into practice, the game for you is going to change. And then I also challenge you to check in with me, where it's like, hey, Austin, listen, I listened to the podcast. I decided what I was going to do. I educated myself. I sent out, 100 mail lists, 500, 1,000, 1,500 mail lists. I did whatever the case. And here are my results. Where should I go from here? Right? Like, that is so much more game changing, because now you're coming to the water to drink. You just have to figure out how big your cup size is going to be. And the more that you probe, the more that you ask, the more that you act, the more that you're going to the fountain with a bigger cup. Because there are some people that aren't even qualified to do this business. And it never ceases to amaze me how much business some of these people are doing out here. And like I said, this is also a testimony to myself, because I realized that with the goals that I have set for this year, I have to put some major things into action. And the second quarter is the best place for you to do that after, just the world and energy has woken up from winter. Now spring, renewal, everybody's ready to hit the ground running. Just go and do it. Go and do it. the cool part about it is that I have seen a couple of people who I've had conversations with over the, since I've been in the business, and, they are starting to do some things, which is awesome. All right. But, for the person that is either trying to get their first deal, or for the investor that's trying to grab their next deal, this is the time where you can input and implement the D.E.A.L acronym and start getting to work. Don't delay. Matter of fact, I'll throw in for everyone, and you can tell who is going to really do this because they've listened to this point in the podcast, right? The bonus is S, which for the acronym deals. The last bonus that I'm just now including is S. And the S is start now. Now. Not next week. Not tomorrow. Now. Now, am I asking you to go hop in your car and go driving for dollars? No. Right now, this very moment? No, I'm not. I don't know what time you're going to be listening to this podcast or anything like that. But what I mean by starting now is you can start with deciding. You can start with deciding your strategy. You can decide what book you're going to read. You can decide, who your mentor is going to be. You can decide what your driving for dollar route is going to be. You can decide that, direct mail strategy is going to be my go-to. You can start with so many things, but start now. Just move one foot forward. I don't care how big or little the step is. Just move one foot forward, and you'll be okay. But I think the most important, I can't even say the most important. They're all important. They're all important. You can't educate on something that you don't know. You can't educate yourself on something that you haven't decided that you're going to work towards. You can't act on your education without having the education. And you can't learn from your results of nothing. You can't learn from nothing. Your result, you can't have feedback from nothing. Right? So, and obviously, if you don't start now, you're not going to bang this out in 90 days. But it's totally up to you. And I'm only talking to people that are looking to get their next project or deal under contract in the next 90 days. Because you can still use this acronym regardless of the fact if you're looking for a year, 3 years, 10 years, don't care. But if you wanted to do this in 90 days, implement this acronym, put in the work. With the input, you get the output. Don't worry about the output yet. The output is going to show up with the input. If you put 2 plus 2 into the calculator, and right before you hit the equal sign on your calculator, you know what's going to happen. What's going to happen? It's going to show up as 4. Why? Because you put the input in, and once you put the proper input in, you know that you're going to gain the desired output. I've never met anybody so far that put in a bunch of work and haven't seen any results. Unless they didn't learn from learn from the results. If direct mail hasn't been working for you for the past a year, it ain't working for you. If reaching out to agents ain't working for you, it's not working for you. It's not working for you. But you have to have the data to prove that it's not working for you. I would much rather you come to me and you be like, yo, I did this for 6 months and it's not working for me. And at that point, it's just perfect, because at least you took the time and the energy and the action to get the results. It's just that now we got to switch up the strategy. So take that same effort and now put it into this strategy or these 2 strategies. See how that goes. You might notice a crazy difference in 3 weeks' time. And that's how God lets you know that you're on the right track. Because God doesn't speak to you. He whispers. And it's up to you to listen. So that is my rant. That actually went on longer than what I thought it would be. That is my rant. I now have to finish getting ready for this weekend's celebrations and wedding reception, which is going to be awesome. I can't wait for it. And let's continue to share this message. Let's continue to share the sugar. Be sure to log on to AustinSmithRealEstate.com. Be sure to register there, get insights, articles, videos, blogs, podcasts, the whole kit and caboodle. And, let's continue to, share this sugar. Let's continue to grow. Let's continue to bounce ideas off each other. Look, I need y'all just as much as you need me. And it's just like, you might find a strategy that I wasn't even thinking about, or you might bring it to me and it might help both of us out. And I might do the same, vice versa. But the more that we communicate, throw ideas out, seeing what sticks, seeing what works, the better that we will be, going forward as we continue to build our businesses and, more importantly, create the life or lifestyle that we imagine. Right? So, this is Austin with the Austin Smith Real Estate Podcast. Go out there. Go do deals. I'm talking to you as well, Austin. Austin, go do deals. You're already doing deals, but ramp it up. Bring more value. Work harder. So, enjoy, everybody. Obviously, if you have any questions or anything like that, just let me know. And we will get the ball rolling. Deuces. Don't tease her. Never leave her. Got to talk, man, got to talk, man, got to talk, man,